Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So for those who don't know, Another Eden Japan actually has a release recently for Boss Rush, and basically it's a challenge where you have different stages, and each stage comprises of 3 to 4 boss fights back to back to back. You don't get to switch your team, you don't get to recharge your AF unless you already had an AF at the end of a particular battle before moving on to the next one, and you also don't recharge your MP or HP. So it's meant to add some flavor to the existing challenges, and I believe you get boss tickets every 6 hours and you can kind of challenge it. And I'm not sure how often the new releases are in terms of the types of challenges, but either way it's going to be very interesting. And so I decided to make a challenge for myself. And if you like the idea, feel free to leave some comments below, whether or not you're going to try it on your own or just want to watch future versions of this on my channel, and I can try to invent some different challenges for myself. That being said, today's challenge is I'm going to use my non-elemental slash team against its counterpart. That is, I'm going to fight 4 manifest battles back to back to back to back with no additional changes or recharges. And bear in mind that the only reason I'm only fighting 4 is I allowed myself 2 characters that do not have manifest battles at this time, mainly Yuri and Cress, and I don't know without them whether or not I'd be able to challenge or defeat these 4 in a row. Now you can see that the 4 we're going to challenge are Elga, Renri, Annabelle, and Mariel. And I wouldn't say they're extremely difficult, but they are challenging, especially Annabelle, Mariel, and Renri. Elga herself is also pretty powerful as well. And so I'll try to mention a few tips as I go through the battles. Obviously, you did see my loadout here, and I decided to put my loadout here at the beginning of the video, just to give you an idea of what kind of power of Grasta or weapon setups I do have in order to really maximize the damage we are. And I'll also try to talk about the movesets that I use specifically in terms of setting up and the strategies we are, especially against some of these multi-stage boss fights. And hopefully you learn a few things, or it's just a review for you. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So stage 1, I arbitrarily chose Annabelle, and I decided to choose one of the easier paths in terms for myself, just to kind of make things easier on the first challenge for me. So if you do target Anna, she is the one behind that actually does the significant amounts of damage in this manifest battle. The front one, X-Miglins, doesn't nearly do as much lethal attacks on you. So if you kill Anna first, or Anna, I guess, then you'll have a much easier time taking on the second version of X-Miglins. Now, if you're wondering why I don't just wipe out the main one and end the battle as is, keep in mind that in multi-stage fights, you really want to have a half-bar AF at least for future fights, so you don't have to nearly have as much challenge, being that we usually try to go into fights with half-bar AF as possible. So, similar to other tough boss fights, you really want to leave a sliver of life on the second unit. This would go the same for the twins, and I know I haven't beat the twins yet, but I just don't want to watch for pixels to just push it over the HP stopper and so on and so forth. This is a little bit easier to manage, being that obviously these enemies have less HP, and my units do more damage in comparison. So you can see that she does heal a significant amount against any attacks. I did already establish slash zone, and the reason why you want to establish slash zone is obviously even though she is a slash unit and does some damage, you can shield yourself with the coil from Cress, and we have the int and power down from Renri. And so I'm just using regular attacks until we have enough of a half bar, and we're just going to unleash the Quattro Drive and all the other powerful moves in order to destroy the enemy. Keep in mind that Crest not only has the VC that activates Slash Zone, his Distortion Blade, which boosts all katana and sword users by 40% of damage, is very, very useful indeed. And it allows you to do the one-turn AF. I know I touched upon it in one of my other Back to Basics videos, so you can feel free to check out that in terms of optimizing or exploring the 1 or 2-turn AF. But in this case, if you're wondering why I switched Crest back to the front, keep in mind that in those boss stage battles, you won't get to switch the lineup. So the last lineup we had in fight 1, we had Crest up front, and so I decided to replicate that particular scenario. In this case, we just one-turn AF. The MVPs of this battle are Yuri, where don't forget that his spam move allows increased crit rate by 50% chance. You have Distortion Blade right off the bat, giving all attacks by 40% for your entire team. And obviously you set up with a couple of moves of Binary Drive as well as Judgment in order to maximize the damage. So one key tip I would mention is that when you're doing these multi-stage boss fights, you have to not only really understand what moveset the boss has, and so you can kind of plan ahead and try to make sure you either mitigate the damage, survive it, or obviously out damage it. The other thing is you actually have to know the overall approximate DPS of your own characters. You have to have some experience in how much you can do damage wise, so you can kind of see if you can just push on right through their HP stopper, for example, or if you have to be a lot more defensive and wait for the right opportunity to. So as you get more experience while fighting certain bosses, like in these case Manifest battles, we probably did this a number of times already. You have a lot of experience in terms of roughly what to expect in terms of the HP damage, the amount of damage you're about to receive, and so forth, and you can plan accordingly. For some newer bosses, of course, you can either wait for videos to come out, or just kind of play around with it and kind of see what you're up against. In this case, Mariel is one of the tougher ones only because she regenerates 3 times for a total of 4 full HP bars. And so it's almost like 4 HP stoppers where you do want to make sure that you have enough damage to kill her off and make sure you survive her Holy Burst as well as some of her single target attacks. She doesn't do a significant amount of damage, but I always like to make sure we have one debuffer up front. And I did mention before, you do want to have one. You want to have one zone setter, one debuffer, a healer if possible, and Yuri can double as that if needed, and obviously DPS in terms of having Elga OG. In this case of fighting Mariel, you also want to make sure you know how many HP stoppers they have. In the case 4 bars, we know that, and we can plan ahead, being that our final fight is actually going to be against Renri. And knowing that we know her moves as well, we really want to make sure we have close to a full half bar of AF so that we can end that fight easily. Because if not, just so you know, on turn 2 of Renri, she'll essentially wipe you out with a 10 or 20k hit. First turn, she boosts herself 100% damage with Slashing Saber, and turn 2 she AoEs with her Judgment, and for those who have her and fought that Manifest battle, it's extremely difficult to mitigate that even with multiple shields and power debuffs. You could use mana, for example, to remove her Slashing Saber buff. So that is another option for those who want to do that. Otherwise, in this case, we're going to out-damage her. Note that we're close to half AF, and so we did plan ahead, making sure we didn't kill Mariel and landed a few regular slash hits, not special moves, regular slash hits, because they do power up the bar even with the zone up. In this case, we don't have a zone, and we're going to do the same thing, 1 turn AF. Note that we know that turn 1, she's not going to attack us, so we're allowed to set up our moves a little bit more. I got 2 stacks of the Azure Wolf Storm, and then obviously 2 stacks of the Binary Drive to allow for more damage and more speed from your team in order to bring Renri to a half bar. And we know that from battles past, she does have a half bar AF HP stopper. And so at this point, you just have to survive the next hit, and if you don't, well, there goes your battle. And I did actually try this a couple times, and no, you can't mitigate it enough unless you remove that boost. In this case, let's just end it right here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.